The fire hose of news from America can feel like a lot these days.
If you're trying to figure out what to make of it all, we got you.
I'm Katie Simpson.
And I'm Paul Hunter. We're correspondents here in Washington,
working just around the corner from where much of the action is taking place.
2 blocks from the White House.
And that's the name of our new podcast.
For top-notch analysis of U.S. politics from a Canadian perspective, find 2 blocks from the White House every Wednesday wherever you get your podcasts.
Including YouTube.
Hello, Grasshopper here. Oh, no, not the bug. The virtual phone system for entrepreneurs. Quick differences between the two. Grasshopper is the stress-free way to add a business number to your personal phone. Grasshoppers have no interest in your stress levels. Grasshopper lets your business go where you go. Grasshoppers don't care where you go. Grasshopper saves you time and money. Grasshoppers can't count. Clear enough? Try Grasshopper, the business kind, for free today at grasshopper.com.
Frequency Podcast Network. Stories that matter, podcasts that resonate.
Well, we're not in the springtime yet. The weather, in fact, is kind of messy. People are maybe hoping and dreaming and thinking about getting back on 2 wheels once the snow clears. Motorcycles, not so popular maybe in the wintertime, but you can always dream, and this is the time of year when people start making their plans for their spring and summer travel on motorbikes. And we've got a big show coming up this weekend at the Enercare Center at Exhibition Place, the Motorcycle and Powersports Show. So we're going to talk a little bit about the world of motorcycling today with Landon French, the president and CEO of Moto Canada. Hello there, Landon. Thanks for joining me on the In This Economy podcast.
Hi, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Is this kind of the dream time of people who want to get out on 2 wheels in the springtime? They start making their plans now to get into the market, or are people buying motorcycles during the winter, Landon?
They do. They dream 12 months of the year.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately in Canada, we can only ride in most cases just a few months in the summertime and so on. So this is the time of year people start planning their trips. They start planning their big purchases on different things. And it's also the time of year when the major manufacturers begin to release new models for the upcoming season. So it's an exciting time of year, and you'll see a lot of that at our show this weekend.
What do they do? What do the dealers do over the winter? Like, if I'm going to buy a car, I want to take it for a test drive. Is there such a thing in the wintertime for motorbikes, or is it just okay, buy it, and if you don't like it, bring it back or trade for something else?
Well, a lot of the people purchasing at this time of year are people who are trading in other vehicles, are quite familiar with, and with what they're buying, and
right.
Have done a lot of homework. So it's not so much of a mystery. There are opportunities, to test it once, the better season comes around. But there's also opportunities at our show to test ride different motorcycles. And if you've never been on a motorcycle before, you have the opportunity to try it and learn from qualified instructors at our show.
Yeah.
And then, once the spring season turns around, then there's lots of training and opportunities to learn as you go.
Yeah, similar, I guess, to the auto show where you can test drive EVs and such. But that raises an interesting point. So, what is the state of the world of motorcycles right now, Landon, from a consumer standpoint? I mean, we've talked ad nauseum, it seems like, over the past 12 months about how the auto industry has been hit by tariffs and, the manufacturing changes that has happened to Canadian, the Detroit 3, their production in Canada. I'm guessing that's not as much of an issue from a production standpoint in Canada, but, has trade affected the motorcycle, buying public or industry in Canada for tariffs or that kind of thing?
Well, it certainly has had an impact, particularly at the beginning of last year, when I think everybody was caught a little bit off guard about what the United States was doing and how far they were willing to go. And so, the beginning of the year, 2025, was pretty soft, and it turned around and picked up towards the end of the year. We got back to kind of our normal levels. The economic impact of the whole industry is I think, underrated. We sell about 62,000 motorcycles a year in Canada, but there are 2.1 million licensed riders across the country. So every year we sell about 62 to 66,000, and but there's a lot more that's already out there in the marketplace, and so that's about 5% of the Canadian population. And we love riding. We've got, I think, the best landscape in the world to ride in, both on-road and off-road motorcycles. And it's a part of our culture and has been from, the time that these things were invented in the first place. And we've had a huge riding culture here in Canada. So, it's part of who we are. About 40% of the motorcycles that are sold in Canada are actually manufactured in the United States. And Canada had put counter tariffs on two particular companies who were selling motorcycles into Canada from the United States. Those have been lifted. And so that's made a big difference in things as well. But, tariffs on steel and aluminum also have an impact. And we are covered by the Canada, US, Mexico free trade agreement. And so we're monitoring that negotiation very carefully right now. We are talking to officials in Canada and Washington and our counterparts in the United States to ensure that, that deal and that trade agreement continues, because it really allows us to have competitive prices and affordable prices for consumers on our products.
Yeah. So has that had any effect on, maybe boosting sales, though, for a motorcycle production out of Japan or out of Germany with BMW or that sort of thing?
Well, the supply chains are so integrated and so long that I do think manufacturers are looking at those options, but it hasn't really made a big impact on supply chain as far as a source or country of origin yet. But I think for every company, whether you're in the motorcycle ATV side-by-side business, or you're in the car business, or you're in anything else, manufacturers are absolutely looking at their supply chains to try to maximize, their value and but also be sensitive to what's happening in the United States and prepared to shift. The U.S. Supreme Court is still not ruled on Trump's tariffs. We don't know what the impact of that ruling is going to be. So we, like the auto industry, are watching this very carefully and staying very close to our counterparts in government and other industries as well, because we're very much all in this together.
You said, I think you said 5% of the populace of Canada has a motorcycle license. How does that compare to like the U.S., for example? Just are we higher or lower than that? Does seasonality affect how many people are interested in riding a motorcycle here in Canada? Because again, it seems like 6 months of the year we're in winter, right?
Yeah, it is. And, we're more like other countries like, Norway, Sweden, other places like that have similar weather patterns as we do. The United States, certainly on a per capita basis, has a larger, number of people who ride. I think the other thing that's an impact here in Canada, particularly in Ontario, is insurance rates are quite high for riders, particularly new riders and younger riders, and that helps keep people out of the business and out of riding. So it's something that we're also looking at to try and find ways to lower insurance rates and encourage safety and safe riding, so that we can bring those rates down and get more people riding.
He was sitting in the driver's seat, and we know that he was shot from outside of his vehicle.
I'm Phil Martino.
And I'm Madison Fitzpatrick. We're back for another season of Tracking a Killer, The Cold Case Files.
We are turning up the heat on 8 unsolved homicides, including the decades-old Margaret McWilliams case out of Toronto.
That was normal that she would go out either bicycling, she'd go walking, she'd go jogging. The cause of death was ligature strangulation.
And we're taking a closer look at the 1990 disappearance of University of Toronto student Elizabeth Bain. Her boyfriend was wrongfully convicted of her murder. Now, a class at the University of Guelph Humber is examining police files on the case.
As far as I'm concerned, the more eyes, the better.
Listen to Tracking a Killer, the Cold Case Files on the Seeker app or wherever you get your podcasts.
You mentioned about the state of affairs, so to speak, between Canada and the United States. Did tourist operators dealing with motorcycles or your sector, did they show an increase in interest and or travel across Canada? Because let's face it, we've got some pretty scenic routes to take.
Yeah, absolutely. Our ecosystem of the economics of this industry takes in sales service, the dealers, the apparel and parts, and the tourism element is huge. So all in for motorcycles, it's about a $10 billion part of our economy annually and 47,000 jobs. And wow. So the riders who come north from the United States and the border states are really important to us, and they're important part of our economy. And we don't yet have data on trips south into the United States from Canada, but I do think anecdotally there's a lot more people looking east and west versus north and south, if you like, or even further north, like the gravel road trails and adventure tours are really growing in Canada. That category of adventure bikes that can go on road and off road, are one of the biggest selling segments right now in Canada. So there is a strong push to explore Canada, which is great. And I think you're going to see more tour operators appeal to that group as the weather improves.
Having said all that, I'm guessing the numbers on Friday the 13th in Port Dover, those are always pretty strong. Even though we just had one and it was kind of mediocre. Yeah, there were people there this year in February. Really? And those are the hardy ones for sure. In fact, yesterday the weather was so nice here in Toronto. I was driving on the 400 and it was about 8 or 9 degrees, and I got passed by a gentleman on a Honda Goldwing heading south. So he's not riding today, I'm pretty sure, but there are people that are riding. We were out in British Columbia not too long ago for our kickoff show in Abbotsford, and we had something like 250 motorcycles come out, and which was great to see. So where people can ride, they're absolutely riding, and ride as much as they possibly can. It just we have a few months where we can't do that. Yeah, you just got to be careful, I guess, at this time of year, just for what condition the roads are in, how dirty they are, and debris kind of thing, right? Yes, safety first for sure. Yeah. Hey, so okay, we're talking about motorcycles, but does your show, and you also mentioned side by sides, yeah, a new-ish category, I guess. Do you also deal with ATVs? ATVs, side by sides, okay, and scooters as well as motorcycles. Oh, okay. Yeah. But each one kind of has a different licensing standpoint, right? Correct. Side by sides and ATVs are off-road vehicles only. And so they don't require the same level of insurance and training that a motorcycle does. It's going to be on the road. So off-road vehicles have a different system. It's also a little bit different by province in some cases. But that category is really growing, particularly the side-by-sides. They have tremendous features. The technology in them is, fantastic. They're very robust, can take on a lot, carry a lot. And again, it's just a fantastic way to explore Canada. The other thing that's happening is that more trail organizations are opening winter trails as well as having their summer trail systems. So
There are more winter trail organizations happening in Canada, which is fantastic, in particular for the side-by-side group. And that side of our business is growing quite well.
Interesting. I was just up in the Kawarthas just recently, and I didn't see as much snowmobile activity. I thought that was kind of surprising. So are the side-by-sides or the ATVs taking away from snowmobile activity in any way, shape, or form? Are you seeing any of that, or was that just a one-off on one of my observations?
I think snowmobiles have been up and down just based on the weather and some of the economic conditions. This has been a good year for snowmobiling generally, but the challenge is the climate change is having an impact, particularly on places like Southern Ontario that do have trails but aren't open very often. This year's been better. Previous years have been worse. And so ATVs and side-by-sides are different too, in that they have some different safety features like roll cages and seat belts and some other things. You can have heaters in them. You can have, roof, windshields, doors. It's pretty incredible what these things can handle, and some of the features you can add to them. I love snowmobiling. I am a snowmobiler myself and have enjoyed this year tremendously, but I also have a side-by-side and are able to get out and explore different parts of our neighborhood. And it's really Powersports generally is a pretty closely knit community, regardless of what you ride, and it's really an important social and cultural part of Canada these days.
Now, you mentioned the scooter category, but have electric motorcycles, have those become more mainstream, or is it still the guttural sound of a Harley that kind of gets people excited?
Well, they serve different purposes. A commuter or somebody who's in the downtown core of Toronto, Vancouver, or Montreal will more likely be on an e-bike, although Quebec has stricter rules around the e-bikes, and there are still scooters like the Vespas that are available, and those are downtown sort of commuter kind of vehicles. But the motorcycles are a different thing altogether. They are certainly, a tourism kind of thing where you're going on different trips, but people use them to get to work and school and whatever. And, in Quebec, it's an important part of growing up for a lot of younger people who start on scooters and then graduate to motorcycles. And we just don't have those sort of regulations across the country. But that's one of the reasons why we sell more motorcycles per capita in Quebec than any other province.
Did an electric motorcycle, like if you're taking not a Honda Goldwing, you mentioned one of those earlier, but like just a regular street bike, did any of the big manufacturers get into an electrified version of some of the more mainstream motorcycles?
Yes, certainly. Harley Davidson has. There are hybrids that exist as well in the motorcycle categories, and BRP just came out with electric motorcycles last year. So they're coming. They are not quite there as far as popularity is concerned, not to the same level as electric cars have taken off, but they're coming. I think the technology is part of what needs to improve. And then, the other part is people just love the feeling and the sound of riding and changing gears and something with combustion engine with them. So it's what they're used to, and it's going to take a while, I think, for the kind of culture to change and the prices to come into alignment a little bit, because they're just not there yet. But they're coming. I think most manufacturers are working on options as far as electric motorcycles are concerned.
So if I'm coming to the show this weekend, what am I as a consumer going to find?
You're going to find almost everything you're looking for. It's got everything from street bikes to off-road bikes, 3 wheels, all kinds of things, plus all the apparel, some great deals on things like helmets and boots and whatever you're looking for. There's entertainment. There's certainly information about these off-road trips and tours that I talked about for adventure bikes. And if you've got kids, there's places for kids to learn how to ride a bike with no engine or a bike with an engine. So bring the whole family down. There's lots to do and lots to see. What the world's best manufacturers are all there, and really looking forward to it. It's going to be a great show.
Yeah, and I guess you raise a good point. You get the kids in early on little mini bikes and stuff, and that's one thing I wish I had done when I was a kid. I got to be honest with you.
Yeah, it was fun. It was dangerous at the time, but the safety equipment and helmets have come a long way since I was a kid many years ago. And I think there's the other thing that's available now is just great places to learn. There's so many riding schools. Colleges offer lots of different training opportunities. And if you come to the show, you'll meet folks from like the Canada Safety Council or other places that absolutely know how to help you get started. And there's lots of adults who want to ride too, and they come down and they check it out and they get started at our show. So, it's a great, not only a great way to get around, but it's a great lifestyle too. So that's a big part of it.
Awesome. Thanks for doing this today, Landon. It was great talking to you.
My pleasure, Mike, and we'll see you on the road.
That was Landon French, the president and CEO of Moto Canada. Again, the motorcycle and power sports show taking place at the Enercare Center at Exhibition Place coming up this weekend. Thanks for listening to In This Economy. My name is Mike Eppel. You can drop me a line at my email address, mike.eppel@rci.rogers.ca. On social, I'm at Eppman. That's EPPMAN. Again, thanks for listening.